All right, hello everybody. Thank you for coming to my presentation. I took the skeleton code off of the class canvas page and made some edits. So as you can see, we have the confidence intervals. Over here on the left side, you can check and uncheck them to check the confidence intervals for all the different categories. That is also no longer referenced by a question ID. Now you can choose the class of the questions. As you can see, alcohol, consumption, cluster awareness, e-cigarette use, demographics, immunization, injury, obesity, based off of the codes in the CSV file. And in each class, there's different topics, such as for alcohol, there's alcohol consumption, binge drinking, heavy drinking. And then also there can be different questions. I don't know if alcohol has any different questions. I guess not. Let's go to demographic. No, that probably won't work either. Let's go to colorectal screening, blood stool test. And as you can see, there's in sigmoidoscopy, adults 50 plus who have had a sigmoidoscopy or colonoscopy are included in this. And then adults from 50 to 75 who have only had a sigmoidoscopy in the past 5 years are in this one. To show that the 95% confidence interval works, I can check and uncheck. As you can see, when I uncheck it down here and up there, it's all gone. And when I've checked it, it's back. What the 95 confidence interval means is that 95% of the time when we generate this interval, 95% when we generate this interval, 95% of the time, it will successfully capture the true value. And in this case, the true value is the percentage. So within this interval, as you can see, this black thing, 95% of the time will contain the true value, the true percent. Let's start off with alcohol consumption. So in the process of this project, I had to combine some questions and responses that were more or less the same, but due to the way the BRFSS works, they sometimes change the questions or the way they phrase it slightly, which causes it to be registered as an entirely new question in the data set, which means we have to go through and combine them in the code, which I did so mostly in the initialize.r file. And then I did the confidence interval stuff in the app file. But for example, for the heavy drinking daily, one of the questions was heavy drinkers are classified as having more than 2 drinks per day. And the other question used to be heavy drinkers are adult men who have more than 14 drinks per week. That's more or less the same. 14 drinks in 7 days comes up to 2 drinks per day. And that's also what the other question was. So I combined the two. That would be in the heavy drinking, as you can see, dropping down heavy drinking. I didn't change the topper and temporal, but also let's just see when exactly the classification of the time changed, when the questions themselves changed. But let us go to alcohol consumption. Over time, as you can see, the people who have 1 drink went down in the 2012s, and then up at 2015 it started rising again. And then it dropped down during 2019 and then went back up. If I had to guess, the reasoning was probably because in 2012 there was a market crash, so people had to cut down their expenses. Versus in 2015, the economy was getting better and better. Looks like it peaked in roughly 2017, 2018, and then in 2019 we see the drop due to COVID-19. People stopped going out, stopped gathering with friends, so alcohol drops. And as the lockdown, shutdown progresses, it starts opening back up again, so people are hanging out more and more. I will also say, though, I have a feeling that it's also due to the fact that people are staying at home and they have higher depression rates. If you look at drinking by territory, it's interesting. West Virginia has a lower rate of drinking comparatively speaking, but it's also more religious in context of the U.S. So same thing with Utah, where the Mormons are, Puerto Rico, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Kentucky, Arizona, so all Republican states. So it seems like that the states on the left tend to drink more than the states on the right. Maybe a gross overgeneralization, but the data seems to support that. I didn't put this to a map or group it all up by region because I think each state is very different. And a lot of the times it goes along religious and lines and political parties. And the political party that is in charge of each state usually, I don't want to say it says a lot, but Mississippi, for example, has a lot lower education rate and they're a red state. So if we combine them into one region, I don't think it wouldn't give as much meaning to the data. Income wise, I think if you're earning less than $15,000 a year, you're too poor to afford it. The more you make over $50,000, then you can buy more. College graduates tend to earn more, so I think that's why they can afford it. If you don't have less than a high school education, you're not able to. You probably don't have as good of a job and you can't earn as much. Binge drinking, pretty low across the board. Heavy drinking, as you can see, the responses have been combined, is pretty low overall. Let's get chronic health indicators. Arthritis, as you get older, we can see that it rises. 65 is higher. In the States was less. Honestly, people who do, I guess, hard labor in some ways, or older elderly populations, such as West Virginia, Arizona, Kentucky, they have higher rates of arthritis as compared to states that have a more relaxed lifestyle, or in this case, territory like Guam, pretty relaxed, California, pretty relaxed, Hawaii, pretty relaxed. Low rates of arthritis. To be fair, those relaxed areas also have better climate, so that could be why as well. I suspect if you look at colder areas such as Alaska, it does have a high rate of what is it called? Arthritis. When you're young, you don't have it. When you're older, you do have it. Arthritis, are you limited in any ways? As you get older, I'd say about half the people 65 plus haven't been told that they have arthritis. Out of those that do, over half of those who do have not, it doesn't really affect their usual activities, and then on the 1/3 that's left, it does. Let's look at depression. So, ever told you a form of depression? Nope. And surprisingly, it stayed roughly the same even during COVID. So I guess COVID didn't have that much of an effect on depression. Let's look at vision. Over the course of your life, you tend to develop more vision impairments, and this fits into science as we know it, because around your late 30s, your vision starts to degenerate. As you can see, 35 to 44, and then 45 to 54. Right after your late 30s, it's getting worse and worse. Let's look at demographics. As you can see here, the demographics of the people who responded. So over the plurality of responders are over 65 plus years. I'm guessing that's because they have more time to respond and are more interested. It also shows them how people over 65 usually tend to vote more. If you look at the states panel down here, you can kind of see the demographics of each state. Guam has a low elderly rate and a higher, or more people younger than 65. Whereas if you look at Florida, a retirement place, it has a much higher rate. One of the highest rates actually of 65 plus. Same thing with Maine, where people go. New Hampshire is interesting. I'm not too sure the reasoning behind it. Arizona is a place where people retire right there. Arkansas is a cheap place to live. People retire there as well. Let's get education. So, as you can see, Asians have the highest rates of education. After that, it's white people, which kind of checks in with my college experience. Most people respond to have had college education. Fitting was the U.S. How most people in the U.S., I believe, have had some form of college education. When you're 18 and 24, you might have a bit. You're just starting, and then as you go in later in life, more and more people take the chance to go to college, either after joining the military and serving in the military and doing it, or going to night school and such. What else? Employment. So if you look at employment, when you're 18 to 24, you're still in college, but then and that's why you see highly educated and all that. Or sorry, by education level. I'm looking at the wrong one. But if you look at education level, usually higher educated people tend to be employed because they have more marketable skills. That's not to say that tradies are necessarily people in the trades are not in this, but I don't think the survey accounts for that. And then by race as well, the black demographic in the US does have a higher unemployment rate. As you can see, the employment rate is lower, unable to work is higher due to systemic factors. And income, if you're unable to work, obviously you don't make money. If you're employed, you will make more money, $50,000 a year. Speaking of which, let's go to the income portion. Income has been rising, and the amount of people making less than $50,000 a year has been falling. I think a lot of this is really just due to inflation. The money that companies are paying people, they have to pay more to keep up. But also, you look at some of these states, right? Puerto Rico, sorry, the territory is very poor. Some people or a good chunk of them, probably half of them, earn less than $50,000 per year. Which is, and then at the same time, they also have some. Actually, they don't have any higher earners. They have the lowest amount, like right here. It's a very small amount. Household income. What else? Let's go to e-cigarette use. E-cigarette use. There used to be, I think, 6 different questions that have now been combined to 3. Was current e-cigarette user, e-cigarette status, and all that. Because these are stacked bar graphs, I didn't, for the stacked bar graph ones, I chose not to put in confidence intervals because it would clutter up the graph and make it much harder to see. I'm not too sure what's up with the temporal trend over here, why it dropped down and increased back up. Maybe during COVID-19, people became super stressed and started smoking. E-cigarette use. Healthcare access and coverage. Oh, this is a good one. The healthcare system in the U.S. is very expensive, and it is reflected in the fact that social demographics that are traditionally a bit poor in the U.S. aren't able to afford as much. Such as black, they have a high rate of not being able to afford medical care. If you're less than high school, you probably don't have the money. Less than $50,000, you probably don't have the money. That's a bit surprising because there's Medicare and Medicaid, but I guess not as many people are making use of that. Personal care provider, etc. The difference between these two is that the first one is a group of doctors. That's when you see it more spread out, more than one, or yes, one, where this one is only one. Although, that's weird. Interesting. HIV, AIDS, health. Oh, let's look at health status. So, if you are if you're not in good shape, well, it's more along the lines of as you get older, your health decreases. We can see it's reflected in age. Gender is about equal. The more money you have, the better you are able to take care of yourself. So you can see that reflected in income. And by education level, if you have less than high school, you probably don't have the knowledge or not as much knowledge about keeping yourself healthy, and you probably don't have the money or resources to keep yourself as healthy. If you look at Puerto Rico, a very undeveloped U.S. territory, they have a higher rate of poor health, which is indicated in red. And I suspect we go to a red state, we consider red state like Arkansas or Alabama. They also have a high rate of poor health. Mississippi, I think, or Missouri has the lowest rate of education. And as you can see, ooh, that's pretty high. The red right there, MS right there as well. That's a very high rate of poor health. Overall health, how's your general health? Excellent. Oh, there is one that I remember. Mental health, chronic health indicators. Days of poor health. There we go. So I found this one very interesting because over time, as you can see, 1 to 3 days of mental health is not good. 14 plus days of mental health is not good. So the younger generation really has actually worse mental health compared to as they get older, but it gets better. And I think that's due to life experience. And it's really the opposite though when you look at physical health. The younger generation is in much better physical health if you look at the age. And as you get older, it gets worse and worse where you have more and more days where when your physical health isn't good. Again, money has a large correlation, less than 15,000 higher rate. If you have 50,000, it's the highest rate. Same thing with education. If you're educated, you probably make more money. It's a better rate of health. Mental health though. Yeah, mental health is also reflected in this too, actually. So in terms of if you look at income, the more income you have, the better mental health you probably have. Whereas the less you have, the worse mental health you might have. So I think the only difference in this is really age. And I think it's with age comes experience, wisdom. You tend to get more tempered and mellowed out, whereas physical health, you kind of get worse and worse. Obesity. Let's take a look, guys. Yeah, as you get older, or a lot of people get fatter. So it comes down to overweight. BMI is the vast majority, or the plurality of people in the US are overweight. Then you have normal weight, then you have obese. But this is really one third, one third, one third. It's kind of nuts. Asians have the most normal, and then black people have the most obesity in the US. For Asians, I think a lot of it is probably genetics and diet. If you look at East Asia, it's like that. I don't really know about the other demographics. I'm not too well versed in that. And if you look at this, each of the states, some states have a lot less obese people, such as Hawaii, proportionally speaking, which is weird. I thought it had more, but I could be wrong. Yeah, in Colorado too, but that's because Colorado is high up in the mountains. People have to walk more. Okay. Well, last part, women's health. As you can see, received the mammograms the past 2 years. A lot of people have, or a lot of ladies have. Guys have no need, as you can see. Guys are not reflecting gender at all. Pap test, 18 plus was in the past 3 years. So this is because if you look at the age group, I think a lot of people, when they first turn 18, they don't start, but then as you look at it later on, by that point in time, everybody has it was in the past 3 years. And yeah, but my goal of this was to make it so you could kind of view everything at once. The states, there's a big variation in the Virgin Islands here, but so you can look at it by state, because I think each state is a lot more unique, and just, again, grouping it by region isn't as useful. Temporal trend, it's going down less and less. It was in the past 2 years, or sorry, the rate of having a PSA test is going down less and less, probably because guys don't care as much about their health. And then, so the response rate of no is rising up. And yeah, thank you for listening.